Fox News contributor, and is she out there in Colorado right now? Because I think it was like 5 degrees.
Yeah, can't really find her in Colorado Springs.
Dug out of some snow. Hey, Michelle, nice to see you this morning.
Good to see you all, too. All
right, so we are just a couple of days away from the fiscal cliff. Everyone's taxes, as of right now, set to go up January 1st. Do we have the countdown clock up? We'll get that up later. But here is where congressional leaders and the president stand on the fiscal cliff. Listen.
Whatever we come up with is going to be imperfect, and some people aren't going to like it. Some people will like it less, but that's where we are. And I feel confident that we have an obligation to do the best we can.
We had a good meeting down at the White House. We are engaged in discussions, the Majority Leader, myself, and the White House, in the hopes that we can come forward as early as Sunday and have a recommendation that I can make to my conference and the Majority Leader can make to his conference. And so we'll be working hard to try to see if we can get there in the next 24 hours. And so I'm hopeful and optimistic.
I'm modestly optimistic that an agreement can be achieved. Nobody's going to get 100% of what they want, but let's make sure that middle-class families and the American economy, and in fact the world economy, aren't adversely impacted because people can't do their jobs.
It's a shame that in this nation, where every developed country in the world knows that our greatest threat is our fiscal solvency, that you have to have these leverage points. You would think that people would just sit down, solve the problem, because we know it is our greatest threat, but that's not the case here. We have a president who has not laid out a plan. He's obviously a spendaholic.
All right, Michelle, you heard a lot of political talking there.
Staying with us during the break.
Michelle joins us back again after all that talking. That's a lot of political spin there. Cut through it for us.
It is, and I have to say that one of the reasons that most average, ordinary Americans outside of the Beltway bubble aren't paying close attention to all of these machinations is that it's not a spoiler alert how this is all going to end. And unfortunately, I think a lot of us see what's going to happen is that the Republicans are going to cave somehow or another and give in, and yet they're going to be blamed. And this has sort of long been the running narrative of how these negotiations have gone, and it certainly helps that Obama and the White House have narrative setters in the liberal media who are just raring to blame Republicans for not giving in enough. And when you hear these code words and these weasel phrases like modestly optimistic and not everybody's going to get what they want, what they really mean is House Republican conservatives who are holding the line aren't going to get what they want, and Americans who believe in fiscal discipline are not going to get what they want.
Mm-hmm. Do you buy the Charles Krauthammer argument from yesterday, which is that the president was very aware right after the election he wanted to create a civil war within the Republican Party, and to Charles's point, he did just that. There's a civil war now within the Republican Party. Do you buy that?
Yes, I think it's obvious that this was the strategy to drive a wedge between House conservative Republicans and House capitulationist Republicans, and now, of course, between the Senate Republicans and the House Republicans. When the ball is in Harry Reid's court, this is not a good thing for conservatives. And what's going to happen now between today and tomorrow is you've got Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid sitting down, never a good thing. And apparently trying to come up with the income tax threshold. And if they don't come up with something, again, that wedge gets driven further, and Obama can sit in the catbird seat and blame Republicans for their obstructionism.
Real quickly, so you think a deal gets done, what, a threshold, say, around $500,000, unemployment gets extended, and very little cuts? Is that basically what you think happens here?
I think that's right. I think that's the basic outline. And then what the House Republican takeaway is, well, we'll deal with the tough issues later.
Kick the can down the road. Yep.
All right, let's move on. Okay, let's go to the story that we've been covering here, the Hobby Lobby story. This is a faith-based business, and they have decided that they are going to basically risk paying potential fines up to $1.3 million per day because they are refusing to provide the morning after pill to employees. It does not go with their beliefs. What do you make of this story?
Well, God bless this company. And by the way, my Christmas tree came from Hobby Lobby, and I think it's incumbent upon every conservative who believes in freedom of religion and freedom of conscience to support those businesses that are standing up and taking the slings and arrows of this discriminatory administration. And they will accept the consequences of it. And I think that, you know, the way to counter that is to give them the business that they deserve for standing up for their principles. And, you know, Laura Ingraham made a very good point about selective double standards here when it comes to religious liberty, because Sonia Sotomayor, who sits on the Supreme Court now and who made this decision to deny Hobby Lobby's hearing before SCOTUS, had actually ruled in a lower court decision that she protected the First Amendment religious liberties of a Muslim inmate who wanted his Ramadan meals covered. So, you know, religious liberty for some and not for others.
So there is a double standard, you think, in her ruling against the Christian business, but previously having ruled in favor of this Muslim-born American.
Yes, and you know what, it should be pointed out with regard to this Obamacare provision forcing companies that practice their faith to violate their consciences, that there are many other court cases going on right now fighting that, and people need to be made aware of those institutions, those businesses, and those I think some of them are Catholic or Christian universities and hospitals and healthcare providers that are also fighting those battles as well.
Does this set up a well, we're going to go to break here in a second, but just real quick, do you think that this sets up a precedent now? I mean, with her having thrown this out of the Supreme Court, not hearing this, I mean, no more in front of the Supreme Court for any of these other conservative companies?
Well, I think if you look at some of these cases, they're being fought on different grounds, and I mean, they're in different jurisdictions. So I think, you know, pun intended, these businesses and these individuals who are fighting these battles have to keep the faith, and we have to keep the faith with them.
On that note, Michelle Malkin, good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Michelle.
You too.
All right.
You too.